and welcome to another episode of the Black Mirror DewatchPod podcast, a podcast where we watch the seasons of Black Mirror in reverse order. My name is Jorgen Smorgasbord.
And my name is Jim with a G.
Today we have watched the episode Men Against Fire.
Yeah, it's about a dude who's a firefighter, and there's a fire, and he's like, darn, how do I deal with this fire? But before we get into that, shall we do some content warnings?
Yeah, no, this is a fairly straightforward one. It's violence.
A lot of violence.
Sort of abusive dynamics. But sort of that. That seems to be it, mainly.
Yeah, I think so.
Do we recommend this episode?
No, personally. No. Yeah, it's a soft night. It's not bad. It's not terrible.
If you've never seen this episode before, this is one of the sort of universal stories.
Sure.
So if you've never encountered this episode before, I guess you should do it at least once. But other than that...
What do you mean by that, Jorgen?
So the thing about this episode is that it's a Star Trek episode also.
How intriguing.
I'm going to do some Googling live on air. You can keep the peasants happy.
No, I don't like keeping peasants happy. That's the message of this episode, is don't keep peasants happy. It doesn't matter when you have guns. I think like, this is one of those episodes that, like, as a story, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm with it. Like, it's not unentertaining, I would say. It's the most positive thing. But it is trite, perhaps is the word I would pick for it. Like, you kind of see where everything is going from, like, I want to say minute 4-ish.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I don't need to watch the rest of this episode. Because I didn't remember this episode very well at all. When we looked this up last time that we were going to watch this one, so there's a very distracting podcat who's doing a big stretch. I hope that got captured. But yeah, like, I remembered this episode in the vaguest terms, and then I watched it back, and I was like, yeah, there really isn't much more to it.
Yeah, no, so this episode does the funny trick where it goes, hey, surely we're not just gonna do the thing, and then they just do the thing.
Yes, because that was the one memory I did have, like, as we watched it back, where I was like, I remember watching this and waiting for the actual twist, and it didn't come.
Yeah.
And then I was like, huh, well, I never. And then that was kind of it. But shall we get into the meat of it, the potatoes and the various root vegetables?
And just to cite my sources, the Star Trek episode I'm referring to is the Voyage episode, Season 4, Episode 4, Nemesis, which is also this episode.
All right. Well, there you go. So, we have a fella.
Yeah.
Well, actually, technically, it starts with a woman, who is credited as Dream Girl.
Which is actually quite funny.
It is kind of funny, but very, very side point. But yeah, we have a dude, he's in the military. What military? Starts as ambiguous.
It's the V military.
It's the V military.
Which stands for virgin. Because they only fuck in their dreams.
Really taking a few steps ahead here. So, we meet our main character. I don't know his name.
It doesn't matter.
I know one actor's name in this episode. Stripe. Right, Stripe. Yes, he's
actor's name in this episode do you remember?
Doug Stamper.
That's not the actor's name,
It is
Jim.
now. Okay.
It's Michael Kelly.
Michael Kelly, but he's
the most generically American name, which is male first name, female last name.
I think it could be Irish too.
I don't know any Irish people.
Kelly is very Irish, I think.
I'm sorry. Kelly either.
I'm sorry for offending any potential Irish listeners with my cultural ignorance here. Okay, I'm gonna try to stick to this because we're doing a lot of side things here. We have Stripe, which is like code name. He's in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's in the military.
His actual last name is Coinage with a K, or like something very close to that, and it was very distracting.
Like Koinange. Yeah, like it is pretty close to coinage. No, wait. Coinage. It is 2 letters off from coinage. It's K instead of a C, and it has an N before the G.
Okay. Yeah,
which
it's
rhymes
too
really.
close. It's
Alright.
too close.
Jurgen, we gotta explain the plot. Stripe is in a military. The first bit is very generic military story, right? That they have banter.
They're going out to kill some roaches.
Yeah. But like we are introduced to Stripe as being like this is apparently his first mission. They talk about like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill these roaches, and like you can tell the actors have been instructed to do capital R on the roach every time they say it. So we're like, yes, this is a plot point.
Yeah. We also get that hint from the fact that they say it a lot.
They do say it a lot. Like,
to be fair, they are tracking roaches, but it is sort of, it's very clearly pinpointed that this is where the plot is going.
Yeah, it's
And
one
it
of those.
does.
It's one of those things where in real life you kind of alternate between proper noun and like pronoun, but here it is only proper noun, and like.
Yeah.
I would love a statistical analysis, but they say it a lot. They go through like, oh yeah, these roaches have stolen some stuff, some food from a nearby village. We have to go out and track them down, and yeah, like that's just kind of like we get generic military banter, and like I don't throw that out lightly. It is very generic.
Yeah. And they interrogate some villagers, and the villagers go, the roaches went to the cottage of Martin Heidegger, famous philosopher. I've never read Heidegger, so I don't know what this reference is.
I think he's anti-Semitic.
Oh, no, he was the Nazi.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Well, he was a secret Nazi until his diaries became public after his death. So he did get away with it. But and they follow this up and go in this cottage, and the generic vampire, that's how our roaches look, sort of.
Really, that's how you think about generic vampire? Because to me they look like the vampires.
Sort of generic vampire orc.
Yes, vampire orc I think is a good description. They are like very pale, like they have grey faces,
and they hiss.
They hiss a lot. They're big on the hissing.
Yeah.
But I wanna preface this for a moment, because we also, like, as they approach this cottage, we're introduced to the fact that they have like cyber implants that allow them to like scout stuff out.
I didn't actually pick that up at this point.
Oh, okay. I think they like use the drone a little bit, and you can kind of see them doing that and blah blah blah. But yes, they find these roaches. There is a fight. One of these roaches are humanoid, I should say. Like, I think they wear clothes and everything. Like,
yeah, the implication we're given is that these people have a sickness and that they're going to, like, this is like we're basically given like a zombie movie thing.
Yeah, a zombie, but they still seem somewhat conscious because we get this.
They use technology.
They use technology. They wear clothes, and this Martin Heidegger has been quote leaving out food for them unquote.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a fight. One of them points this like sappy flashlight, which is clearly a Men in Black thing.
Yeah, neuralizer.
At Stripe, and then like he shoots one of them, stabs one of the others, and then his lady friend is really bad at aiming as one of them runs off.
But she spent all the time when she was supposed to learn aiming on speed doing her hair. And practicing that, because in the first scene she has her hair open and then she has like an intricate braid setup, like within 5 minutes. Which, like, sure, that's a continuity edit, but like it just like if you like
really picked up on that.
It really hit me. Like,
yeah.
It's very elaborate. It's like, oh yeah, no, this is like Vikings hair.
Man,
TV show Vikings.
Wait until you find out about the makeup they do.
Well, she has makeup in the first scene,
I guess. But yeah, I suppose one also small scene that happens here is that like the captain, who's also a lady, so like we really have feminist Charlie Brooker coming out here.
Yeah, women can be evil too.
Yeah, and do their hair very quickly. It's a really modern view of what a woman is supposed to be. But yeah, she talks to the philosopher and it's like, basically does the full exposition of like, okay, roaches are human, they have an illness.
Well, she does the fake exposition, which is the zombie implication thing, but
yeah.
It is also the actual exposition that these people are basically genetically inferior and therefore must be exterminated.
Yeah.
And also this guy who is actually Heidegger. So this is just like a very thinly veiled reference and not like quite so open. His actual in-story motivation is that he's very Christian. It's like, I shouldn't kill these people. And also, the civilians can just see these people as human.
Well, okay, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because then, like, yeah, this raid, I guess, is like a modest success. They go back home with Philosopher Man in tow, and Stripe starts having weird stuff going on.
Yeah, his implant starts glitching.
Yeah.
Which is actually first revealed when he gets... So this is a subplot point, but I cannot skip it, because it doesn't seem to connect to anything, but it is so odd that I am sort of stuck with it. Which is that the reward they get for killing people is sex streams.
They do get sex streams.
And
seemingly all of them get sex streams.
If they kill more, they get better sex streams.
Well,
they get harder. They get more intense sex streams.
I think better sex streams is really questionable, because the way this is represented to us is a swarm of clones.
Well, no. So let's take this step by step, because the first iteration of the regular reward sex stream is just she actually has sex with him, as opposed to blueballing him, which I think is the status when you don't kill roaches. You just like have like sort of like you have arousing dreams, but you don't get to come. And when you kill roaches, you get to come.
Okay.
Like, that is straight up what is like quite explicitly given to us by the story.
And I will admit I did not, and perhaps I have a different view of sex here, but I did not think about specifically whether they came or not.
This story is somewhat invested in that.
There is the lady friend who does specifically say that, if I killed 2 of them, I would want to come for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a interesting line. Good world building. But yes, so, and that is, the sex stream is not where the glitches start, to be fair. There is also, like, he does have, like, a sort of, what's it called, like, what's it called, shooting range accessory.
And he has like a HUD, and he's just like, my HUD is glitching, but I'm gonna be coy about it. Eventually he goes to the psychologist and like the doctor, and all of them are like, you seem fine, this is fine, I go back to doing your shit, we don't care.
But
we are, however, just in case you're feeling some hesitance, going to dial up your sex streams to 11, and 11 here is the number of clones of Dream Girl, who I'm going to call Felicia from now on, that will appear in your sex stream.
And sort of gyrate at you, or just kind of have the, like, bedroom eyes, but not really do much apart from being naked.
I mean, they are having sex. He is having sex with 2 of her at once at some point in a...
But there's like another
anatomically implausible arrangement.
But there is the implication, or there are like another 5 or 6 of them who are just kind of like around and sort of gyrating at him.
At him, at each other,
possibly at themselves. Because that's feminism for you.
Well, he seems to be the focus, to be fair.
I think that's a fair conclusion.
Yeah. And he has a glitch and he wakes up again, and it doesn't really go anywhere. I
am really just like, man, you couldn't at least make it a different, generically good-looking woman? Like, I would be freaked out. Like, I get that people have, like, twin fetishes and stuff like that sometimes, but I'm like...
Oh, man, we got the 11 tuplets online for this one.
I just imagine that, like... This happens to the entire military, and like 98% of them are kind of like vaguely horrified, but there's the like twin fetishist who is getting like their mind blown by this experience, and they will never be the same.
Well, to be fair, this is not like the standard reward experience. This is Doug Stamper going, oh yeah, I'm going to make sure you have a really good time.
The thing that really strikes me, first of all, is that this is like a subplot that really doesn't go anywhere, but also I'm like, I would like to receive his reaction to it. Like, I want him to go back to Doug Stamper and be like, are you into this? was this good for you? Can they? I guess it's not confirmed whether he has the implant either, but like it would be fun if like Doug Stamper just does this. He like turns his own settings up every time he goes to bed, and he's just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, Doug Stamper is the psychologist.
Yes. Sorry, that was good.
But yeah, no. Anyway, he just goes back out to do some like scouting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, they burn Heidegger's ranch. It doesn't.
They
matter.
do, yeah. Because there's like general implications that there's an illness and like everything they touch is contaminated. Blah, blah, blah.
They also destroy the food and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they do some scouting. And they are like, oh, these people have solar panels, which is like another like, these are just guys, huh?
Yeah.
You're not bothering making this foreshadowing subtle.
Yeah.
And then we get the fucking sniper shot. We get the no-scope kill of the century.
Yeah, someone is using like a fucking Mosin Nagant or some shit. Like, it's like a fucking Prussian needle gun.
I believe it is explicitly a bolt-action rifle.
Yeah.
And he just like domes this lady like across a yard with no scope.
It's like half a kilometer away. Like,
yeah, no, this guy's good.
This guy's really good.
We never see this person again either.
At least not explicitly.
No.
But, I mean, based on the implications of the very spoilery thing we're coming to, it's possible to see
we're in the recap. It's the spoiler zone. But yeah, no, our boy's implant has fully glitched. So he's like walking through this building while they're hunting the sniper, and he's like, hey, you civilians, get out of here. And then the civilians get fucking domed by his partner.
And the partner kind of looks at him like, what are you doing? And he looks like fucking horrified.
Yeah, because he just saw a civilian get murderized.
And then, yeah, they have a little fight when they find more civilians, and he's like, why are you killing these people? And
well, yeah, and where this leads to is him encountering a civilian first and being like, oh yeah, no, what's up? I'm normal, you're normal, this is fine. And having a fairly regular interaction, until his colleague comes in. And at this point, I do need to flag that this is very much shot in a, like, this lady is playing a video game.
Yeah.
And she's just, like, spraying and praying to, like, lay waste to this entire floor.
She's having a good time. She has booted up Call of Duty, she set it to easy, and she's going, like, hell yeah, it's time for my nice de-stressing afternoon.
Yeah, it's time to play the airport level.
Yes. That's an old-timey reference
and
by now.
He goes, you're killing civilians, and, like, knocks the gun out of her hand, and in a brief melee, knocks her out. And the civilian goes, oh shit, you've been shot in this encounter. We need to get out of here. Because he is at this point catching on to the fact that something's odd.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's been shot, so he needs attention.
And by now, literally everyone who's watching this understands exactly what's going on. Yeah. But my man was not recruited for being particularly keen on tropes. No. So he's like, I am confused.
No, he's never seen Star Trek Voyager.
But yeah, so he steals the little Humvee or Jeep or whatever that they came in, and then they go to like a forest hideout as he's passing out from his wounds inflicted by his comrade who was kind of going nuts with the civilian murder. And yeah, they have a little like I don't know what you call it, like a fucking hay bunker.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a hideout. Everything is hideouts. Like, this place is extraordinarily desolate.
Yeah, and it's very much out in the forest, which I think this is probably supposed to take place in, I'm going to take a shot at, like, Eastern Europe, but...
They do seem to be speaking Germanic languages.
Do you think so? Okay, I was having a really hard time picking up on the languages.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Okay, fair enough.
So
this is
the director is Dutch. The director is Dutch, so I do think like these actors are, when they're speaking an odd language, are speaking Dutch.
Okay, fair enough. It sounded Slavic to me, but like I was having a really hard time. Like
maybe I mean I wouldn't be too forceful about my reading here.
It would be fun if it was Czech.
Yeah. Would it?
Well, it's a reference to Nosedive. Because, Czech. Weren't they in Czechia in fucking Macy Day too?
I have no recollection of this at all.
Okay, sorry, I'm picking up on more details of the Brookerverse than you are, clearly, Jorgen. But yes, anyway, the important part is this is where he goes, "You're normal. Why are you implying that you're a roach?" And she's like, "Baby, dude, here's the plot." And
I'm going to explain the roach situation to you. We're also human, and you're killing us, and your implant is showing us as subhuman.
Yeah, making you see us as vampires.
But also, I speak English now, and we're never quite clear on whether the implant actually is scrambling their language or not.
I was thinking about that after we kind of lightly touched upon it before the podcast. Given that the villagers who are not roaches need a translation thing, I think this is just a complete, like, I don't want to call it a plot hole because I don't think it's important enough to be a plot hole. But yeah, I think it is just
it's deeply unclarified either way.
And like I think all of the roaches speak with like a clear accent when they speak English. So I think it is just kind of like first it made sense, and also like the implant makes them like hiss rather than speak. So no, I think this is just completely like, when it's convenient for the plot, they're gonna speak English with him.
Yeah, and this lady does speak English.
Of course. Her name is Katarina.
No, they like, because Heidecker is like, no, I speak your language.
Yeah.
We are canonically told that they can speak English if they speak English.
Yeah.
Anyhow, she's like, "Oh, I'm a human. This is my son, probably. And we're under occupation, and you're an occupying force that is implanted and brainwashed."
And he doesn't take this super well.
No, he's quite freaked out by this.
But thankfully, he doesn't have to dwell on it for too long, because then his buddy shows up
and fucking shoots her in the head.
Oh yeah, like she gets a lot better at killing civilians when they're like standing still.
Yeah, no, I mean, she does have the drop on him.
I mean, she does it very efficiently. One must say.
She is not a great shot in general, but you know, I guess it's just moving targets that elude her. Maybe it's like a visual processing that the implant
She's
doesn't
a
have.
stormtrooper.
Maybe the implant just doesn't have enough processing speed to like render like fleeing things properly.
She has bad ping, is what we're getting out of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, she knocks him out, takes him back. He's like, I guess, like a deserter now, like would be the way to put it. But yeah, he gets put in like solitary essentially, and
I don't know if this has like the military law structures that we know.
That's fair. But yeah, this is where Doug Stamper, psychologist, comes back in.
And does the second exposition.
Yeah, and he basically repeats that part and goes like, it's a lot easier to kill when you're seeing the enemy as monsters, and everyone in the audience goes like, yes, we yeah. No, we got that.
And the other thing that we were kind of waiting for and not sure where we're getting is the reason for all this, which is that the people they're hunting are genetic inferiors, with like, I don't know, like weird bad IQ,
sexual deviancy is mentioned, which is really funny coming from him.
Hereditary diseases.
Yeah. There's something about the war mentioned in the episode, and it's very like it has YA energy when they say the war.
I missed that entirely, actually, but it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, like they imply, like it's unclear to me whether the war was against the roaches or that was like a thing that came after. But like, I don't think the world building is really intentional.
I mean, this is like a fascist occupying force,
and specifically very focused on the eugenicist part of it.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of just said like, oh yeah, one day we did a bunch of DNA tests and decided that these guys sucked.
Yeah, and what we aren't given is any explanation of how the implant knows that these people have bad DNA.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't look at that too weirdly, but like that is something you would question in perhaps a deeper analysis of this, because you'd think that would be very easy to fuck up. Yeah, and be like, oh, you have this gene that is not being expressed.
The story isn't interested in that. Instead, it goes, hey, this guy has two choices, which is be tortured forever with the actual real footage of him killing those civilians with them now not being scrambled as roaches,
yeah,
or get his brain reset and get the implant fixed and go back to being a roach killer, which, like, is a bit odd, but, like, the story goes, no, you have to nominally consent to the implant for it to work.
Yeah, I suppose.
Which...
I don't know if it's just like kind of like trying to do the soft hand before the iron fist sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's not entirely clear whether they could just flip the switch when they are just trying to make themselves feel better. The final scene in the end is him retiring as a decorated soldier and going to, like, the most fucking desolate, like, suburbs we've ever seen, with, like, graffiti and shit, and everything sucks. Like, this is, like, the bad parts.
This is the suburb of, like, an American teen show, or, like, the main character goes to, like, the shy kid's home, and it's like, wow, this person lives really badly, you know?
Oh, yeah, no. Except the weather is also drab. Like, everything... Like, this place is, like, cursed.
Yeah, this is haunted. This is a haunted place. And specifically, it's haunted by a lady who is the dream girl. But this time, that's only one.
Felicia's there, and she's waiting for him on the other side.
And she's doing a placid smile.
Yeah, and the implant is just making the house look really nice, and also the weather good. Which seems overkill, if anything.
It seems overkill. It also seems, like, very hard to maintain, because the moment it starts raining, he's gonna be like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's where we end. The implant is showing him a nice retirement.
Okay, so, what do we learn from this episode?
Well, I want to briefly go back to one thing that we glossed over.
It's not the twin sex, is it?
No, we didn't gloss over that, did we?
We did not.
Like, in the psychologist exposition part, we are given the, like, like, brief, dubious military history of soldiers don't actually want to kill that much. And we'll get back to that at a later point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what this episode is about, because there's, like, this is a classic, multiple things are going on, and I'm not sure which is the most going on.
Well, it's about dehumanization, isn't it? It's about very, like, systematic dehumanization for, like... And, like, I will give this episode one credit, right? It's one of the few where I feel like Charlie Brooker really talks about why a bad thing is happening, right? Like, he talks about, like, who benefits from making you, like, a tool in the fight against quote-unquote genetic inferiors, right? And I think that is... I know this is going to sound really bad, because it doesn't sound that biting, but it's more biting politically than most of this work, right?
Yeah.
Like, it in a way, it makes me think of Black Museum, where they're like, oh yeah, did you guys know that people are racist? And we go like, yeah. And here we go like, okay, like, dehumanization as a tool to get soldiers to fight better and like oppress a given group. Sure, and they're also saying like, yeah, this is used to manipulate you to do the bidding of like whoever benefits from this invasion, right? The military superiors. There is something to it, at least.
Yeah, and there's sort of like an interesting dual track here between, like, on the one hand, it is just like very pragmatically useful to the military, but it's also very ideologically useful.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, like, that is definitely like the broadest strokes of what's going on. What I'm sort of thinking about is like whether this episode is interested in technology or not.
I was pondering that too, because I think it's the whole plot point about, you mentioned during the episode even that like it's interesting that the Stripe is not like a morally upstanding citizen. In fact, he seems fairly flawed, like by no means like a horrible person, but like the vibe you get from him is that like he's the kind of like he feels like he would be a henchman to like a mild bully in high school, right?
He is a dipshit who signed up for the military for reasons of mainly being gullible. That is the impression we're strongly given.
Yeah, and he seems like happy. Like, he's not good at the banter, but he seems happy to go along with it. Like, he absolutely has the ability to be molded into like a with all due respect, a typical like soldier shithead, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something interesting there. I suppose. But like, and like, I do think there's something to be said about like taking people who are, not conscious. What was it called? Like, not conscious. People who don't do the war thing.
Conscientious objectors.
Thank you, conscientious objectors. Like, right, like it's thinking that like, okay, yeah, like this person is not amazing or anything, but like he's not like a psychopath from day one. He is molded into that.
Yeah, no, he's just like a schlub, and they put the killer implant in.
Yeah, and they put the killer implant in, and then they have then the roaches have the killer implant thing, where they just flash a what's it called? Neuralizer from Men in Black into his face, and he's now like, oh shit, these are human beings. And I don't know, I think that's kind of interesting in a way, like, because okay, like, if we throw it out broadly here, right, this is about dehumanization, it's about technology, or it's about like media in a way, right, like about painting the enemy as subhuman.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about, because like, if it's about that, it's not good, right? It's not it's not a strong metaphor as far as I can tell. Though there is just like a very funny like direct line you can draw, like, oh yeah, no, he's being deprogrammed.
Yeah, I mean that is very much what they're going for, right?
Yeah.
And like there's an interesting point about here, like Doug Stamper, psychologist, does make the whole point about like, oh yeah, people sucked at shooting each other in World War II. We got better in the Vietnam War because we got better at conditioning people. And the conditioning here is a bit ambiguous what he means, because that could just mean better training, right?
Well, so I know like just enough to sound like barely knowledgeable about this. So like the thing that happened after like specifically World War II is that everybody adopted like the Nazis like army training methods of like, oh, yeah, no, like, you gotta, like, get that individual bond between, like, small squadrons of people. And, if you're not willing to kill for your country, which, like, no sane person should be, you've gone through the shit where you've trauma bonded with these people.
Yeah.
And therefore you're willing to kill for them. And the sort of next step, which is, like, one of the more modern developments, I don't know if this pre or post-Vietnam is, basically like training people to shoot like on reflex rather than like with any conscious deliberation, which, and I'm not sure whether the things I'm citing here are actually accurate, but like the story, at least as it is told, is that there's like maybe like 1% of people are absolute psychopaths who will just like remorselessly kill people if you give them a gun and tell them it's okay and they won't have any social repercussions.
Yeah.
Or even be socially rewarded. Most other people, the story goes, will not do that because they're like, that's another person.
Yeah, like that part, like, as much as it is citing like faulty military history as far as I can tell, psychologically this makes a lot of sense, right? Like the Doug Stamper speech makes sense. It is hard to make a person kill another person when it's not explicitly in self-defense.
Yeah, and like the Vietnam thing, I believe, is also like, at least in so far accurate that he's like specifically talking about like, if you actually figure out how to teach a person to kill, like mainly like reflexively, like they will do that, and then they will be fucked up for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Because they're, like, you've basically, like, hot-wired them into doing something that they are not prepared to cope with. And yeah, they're like, we can just solve this problem by making it a video game.
Yeah, like there's a lot to talk about that whole like empathy aspect, right? Because like if you look at like ancient warfare, you have huge groups of people like essentially pushing each other into doing this, right?
Yeah.
If you look at modern stuff, yeah, you start having the issue of like, because of like the less formation based warfare, you have people who have to individually pull the trigger on someone, and that's hard. Like you do need a lot of reason to do that, whatever you get it from, but. What I think is very interesting is this feels like a situation where, on one hand, Charlie Brooker does have a finger on the pulse of the military, but mostly he absolutely goes the wrong way, right? Because this is not what's happened. What has happened is that it turns out pulling the trigger when you have a person in your sights a lot harder than pressing button to do drone strike to kill 300 civilians, right?
Yeah.
And that's where warfare has actually gone.
Yeah.
And it's a lot simpler that way, obviously. But like, I think like there is something to be said for like that being like, look, it's a very trite observation that like, hey, Black Mirror is doing something that's obviously more complicated, but it does also speak to a very different view on how to get people to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
And this one emphasizes self-defense, where in reality what has been more emphasized is distance, right?
Yeah. And, then you still get the trauma.
Yeah.
Because at some point you realize, hold on, those dots were moving like people, and I was given the task to kill people.
I mean, people are really good at anthropomorphizing, right? Like, people
Yeah.
will be sad at killing pixels in a video game. Like, and
Yeah.
and that's one thing to say now. That was true 30 years ago, in a
Yeah.
way. So, like, there's something to be said for, like... I think it's interesting, right? Because, like, this is both about technology, right? Like, one of them is technology to warp your perception of the enemy.
Yeah.
The other is to just put you farther away from them and warp your relation to the killing that you're doing.
Yeah. I suppose I am once more indulging in the sweet sin of counterfactuals.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, the question that, like, we are... like, we clearly bump into, but do not, like, actually address, is, like, the political structure behind this, which is why earlier I was harping on, like, hey, how does the implant know that, like, does the implant do, like, an instant genetic scan of a person to decide whether they get roached?
I assume so. Or it does, AI facial recognition flawlessly.
I mean,
like, oh yeah, this guy has really roach face structure.
I mean, that is, like, more plausible, but, like...
Probably, yeah.
The actual thing is that the episode doesn't care, even though that is, like, the actual flashpoint in my mind of, like, where it should be going. Because, like, the power, like, if you, like, squint a little bit, like, you need to make people better at killing for a military to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that does check out.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, it's evil, but, like, it is, like, if you, like, see the world in a very, like, realist foreign policy, like, dog-eat-dog way, like, like, that can be justified. But the question that follows from it is, like, yeah, but who gets to decide who gets dehumanized by the machine?
Like, this reminds me of, or like, this really to me points to one of those things that always seems to go wrong in these types of anti-racist, anti-eugenicist, anti-whatever sorts of screeds, right? Where they kind of give the point, right? They say that, like, yeah, some people are roaches, and we shouldn't call them roaches, because that's rude, but there are distinct racial groups we have to, like, admit to existing. And, the response is, no, human genetics is a lot more... Right, like, this is a point that comes up a lot in these sorts of stories, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna cede the point to the insane eugenicists that you could do this.
Yeah, we're gonna...
it's bad.
Yeah, we're gonna... Like, to be fair, like, I think that is also a good one to make, right? Like, to, like, briefly branch out. Like, this is why I'm quite interested in Shadowrun, which does just, like, cede the point, but then it goes like, well, it's still bad, though.
It's an interesting perspective. I just think, like, when it comes to something like this, that really, really depends on A, racial groups existing, and B, them being so clearly defined that we can just spot them with, like, essentially AR goggles, is kind of madness, right? Like, and I think that is worth addressing. Yeah,
and I do think that, like, the episode should have gone there, because, like, the interesting question is, like, what are the actual politics behind, like, just fucking murking people for no reason, right? Like, at no point does this episode ever go like, I'm going to dial the switch and now you are, like, seen by everyone else as a roach.
Yeah, or just being like, because your implant is glitching, you are now seeing this other soldier as a roach, because, like, your settings are a bit different
and
now.
That line never gets touched.
Never. Not even slightly.
Like, it should be malleable if, like, reality is any guide, but this episode is not, like, at all going there.
Yeah.
And that is where I think the greatest failing lies.
Yeah, like it's one of those just I don't know, like it's broader than this episode, but it always makes me a little bit sad because like you can see this in stories about like disabled people where they go like, yes, I know disabled people are worse than everyone else, but we still shouldn't kill them. It's kind of like that. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I think we should examine some of the priors first before going to that.
Who have the worst vision anyone has had in living and not living memory. I'm not disabled. These glasses are just a part of my face.
Yeah.
However, that person with a limp, shoot them on sight.
Yeah. And like I really think like there's I don't know, there's something that's really dropped there that makes it deeply unfortunate.
Yeah, no, because that's the actual question and we're just not asking it.
Like it's weird because I think this shows up a lot in fascist adjacent stories, right? Where it's like or like stories about fascism where they go like, yeah, fascism, it's really efficient. It really gets rid of corruption.
It gets things done.
Yeah.
It has cool outfits and nice flags.
Yeah, and
but obviously it's a bit gross, so we shouldn't quite do it.
And it's like I think honestly saying that like fascism, I think if you're in a debate about fascism and you say fascism is inefficient, you're right. But I can also understand that people are going to be like, yes, but you should focus on it being bad. And I'm like, but no, like it's important to talk about how it just doesn't work.
Yeah, but
I don't know. Like it is as you say quite a dropped thing about this.
Yeah, no, I know. It is sort of an interesting conundrum to speak like about propaganda for a second, where like both fighting a thing on it, like disproving a thing on its own, like terms and like fighting its terms both feel inadequate somehow.
Yeah.
At times.
I think it's one of those things where like you do want to do both as much as you can, but
yeah.
like, then you feel unfocused.
Mm.
But yeah, like it's I don't know. Like I think that particular thing is not exactly the high point of the episode. But like
No.
I think if we accept it, sure. Like it is interesting that the whole part about like because Doug Stamper, psychologist, gives us the speech about how they have lower IQ and they're prone to hereditary diseases and are sexually deviant, which again I really want to delve into that for a second.
It is really just like the list. Like
yeah, the full fascist list, right?
Well, except for races, right? They're like they skip that one because like that one would be a bit too on the nose.
Yeah.
The races are only implied, but also not like we're never shown like any of them to be like visibly ethnic.
Yeah. No, they're all white.
Yeah.
Apart from some of the soldiers, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting take on the whole thing, isn't it? But it strikes me as very like pragmatic cinematography in that sense to be like, okay, everyone's gonna be white and we're not gonna talk about that. Like it is a classic sci-fi thing, right? To be like, this is about racism, but we're gonna take away the race part.
Yeah. No, and
it's very David Cage in a way. I'm sorry.
Like, I was genuinely wondering whether like before the implant, I was wondering like, are these guys robots?
I could have seen it, but
yeah,
it didn't feel to me where they were going with things.
I mean, I didn't have a strong sense because I was like, well, the obvious thing is clearly a red herring.
Yeah.
So I was kind of looking and yeah.
I don't know. I think what this episode needed is one part where they talk about roaches being on the back of the bus to prevent contamination. I think that would have made things a lot more clear. I was very confused by the messaging of this episode unless that would have been...
I mean, to be fair, the messaging is kind of confused.
Speak to that for a moment.
Well, it's... like, I guess it's like, you shouldn't dehumanize people, but it's like, but dehumanizing is so efficient.
Well, I think that does speak to something, doesn't it? Like, I think that is not the folly of this episode, right? Because like, it's very easy, and Black Mirror does this a lot, where they be like, "Oh, this thing is fucked up, and here's a bunch of reasons you shouldn't do it," but no one ever explains, well, why would you do it, right? Like, there's been so many times where, like it's. I'm sorry to keep calling back to Black Museum now, but like, it's when we were talking about that and how like, oh yeah. Hello, we've invented the horror machine. And then the guy goes, tell you what, I would like a ride on this horror machine. Yes, please put my my wife in my brain. Yeah. This one at least answers the question, why would you do this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is actually one of the interesting points, and it's over-delivered, unfortunately, but I think it's an interesting point to point to this dehumanization and be like, this is good for the average soldier who's already done bad things, right? Like, this is an escape. This is an escape from feeling, like, from dealing with the horrible things you've done.
Yeah, no. Like, I guess the two, like, sort of interesting things that this episode does beyond its sort of by the numbers, like, dehumanization plot is Felicia, the dream girl.
Yeah.
Because, like, they are just, like, also, like, putting in, like, no, like, not only do you get, like, killing made easy for you, you do also get to have, like, better dream sex if you kill.
Yeah, it's a bit of carrot and stick, but the stick is, I guess, weird here. But yeah, like, there's, like, the incentive of it.
It is, like, mostly carrot. It's, like, carrot and, like, some lube.
Wait, which part is the lube here? Because I think
the lube is the dehumanization to make it easier to kill.
I see. So
and
the lube
carrot is a tasty snack.
So the lube is not for sex, is what I'm getting at here.
No, it's
fascinating.
It's for easing the murder. To make the knife go in easier.
Yeah, why don't they lube up in combat knives? It would make so much sense.
But yeah, no.
I mean, I think that also, like, I think they went about it the wrong way, I guess, with that part, right? Because, like, to me, that carrot, that tasty snack is, like, the social status of being like, oh, war hero, blah, 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 like, you fought for your country, right? And just being like, you get sex dreams is kind of like, I don't know, it's like a very weak punch in that direction.
Yeah, no, like, does everyone have their own dream girl, or does everyone have the same dream girl?
I would love it. Because you posited, Jürgen, during the episode, what if he's gay? And I think that would have been an extremely funny twist.
Like, that would have, like, I was genuinely wondering, like, are they going with, oh, he's gay, so the programming doesn't quite take? Like, that, like, genuinely, just, like, clearly they're doing something to my mind, because I'm not banging, like, hot twinks. I'm just saying.
It would have been a great scene where, like, you know, as they're having, they're like, oh yeah, like, if I got 2 of those roaches, I would have wanted to come for a minute. I miss Felicia. I can't wait to see her again. But yeah, like, it's a weird, right? Because, like, I have never been in the military, Jürgen.
No.
So I don't know, but, like, the idea of, like, here, you got a couple of good kills, here's a couple of chocolate bars, but, like, I'm sure that happens, but it's not exactly the prime motivating force here, right?
Well, and to go into the other, like, interesting angle is that, like, the thing they do to, like, get him back into line is just go, like, hey, we will put you in the cell and play you the tape of you killing these guys over and over.
Yeah.
And with, like, and this time with the full sensory experience, not just, like, a visual.
Yeah, like, that speaks to me, actually. Like, I think that is a genuinely good plot point, right? Because, like, that is genuinely a thing that helps keep people in cults, in abusive situations, to be like, hey, you already done bad things. Do you actually want to believe that those were wrong?
Yeah. No,
or do you want to feel that they were justified?
Do you want to face your conscience?
Yeah. Here's
an easy out of that.
Yeah, you can, like, we will supply you the ideology to continue to believe that you've done nothing wrong. And, like, that's really tasty. That's a good snack. That's good lube.
Yeah, no, like, that's the, like, carrot and shotgun approach, which is like, either we give you something nice, or we fucking kill you. Like, or you go into the torture hole, and, like it is, like, it's not a prisoner's dilemma, it is just straight up, like, one option, like, accomplishes nothing and you suffer, then the other option is, like, hey, you don't need to remember any of this, you can take the blue pill.
Yeah, like, I think that is honestly, like, again, I think it's a little over-delivered, right? Like, I think it could have probably, because the idea of, like, oh, you're going to have to replay this over and over, it's like, that's just, like, Charlie Brooker is doing his hell thing again a bit much.
Also, also a Star Trek episode.
Ah, that makes sense.
Also a Voyager episode, actually.
Oh.
Two Star Trek Voyager episodes making an appearance here.
Thank you, Jorgen. Very, very useful.
Unfortunately, I do not have the citation for that looked up, and it would be a bit harder to get.
Gotcha. But yeah, like, it's one of those things that, like that one hits me, right? Because, like, that reminds me of the whole, like, some gangs being like, you have to kill someone to get in, right? Yeah. Because the moment you've done that, you have separated yourself from civil society, but also you put yourself in a situation where, like, yeah, if you bail out on this, you're going to have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the military is kind of like that in a way, right? Like, it makes you participate in things, and then, like, hey, you can continue believing in the ideology that justifies this, or you can own up to what you've done. And that's not fun.
Anecdotally, this was also Stalin's power move.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, whenever he was, like, alright, we need to do some fucked up shit, he was like, alright, everybody sign on to making the next gulag even worse. Because that way, like, it was quite challenging for people to go, I am morally pure, and therefore, everyone who's morally pure should get behind me and kill this bad man, because everyone was compromised, and that was very much the point.
Yeah. I think there's one last thing that strikes me, and it actually, to me, comes from an interesting point, because this episode is very military, right?
Yeah.
Like, unsurprisingly, it's a military point. But what strikes me is how little of an actual civilian world there is, right? Like,
it's really bleak.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't even one to go home to.
Yeah, there's no one to go home to, but, like, specifically, there's one scene where we see civilians, right?
Yeah.
Which is the, like, where they talk about, like, oh yeah, the roaches stole a bunch of food. And we get, like, kind of like a nod to that later, and it's like, oh, the civilians don't see you as roaches, like, as vampires, right? And the lady goes like, nah, they're just really racist. Which, first off, really interesting to suggest that civilians on average are more racist than military personnel. Who knows? But that's an
well, they don't have to kill.
I suppose. There's something about that, yeah.
Well, I think, like, to, like, dive into this a bit more specifically, like, they do also go, like, hey, we're gonna have to destroy all this food.
Yeah.
Which, like, initially goes like, oh, well, that's probably, like, a contamination thing. But no, it's a collective punishment thing.
Mm.
Right? Because, like, the civilians aren't like, oh, man, fuck these guys. The civilians are like, they stole our food, and we need your help, but also you're gonna destroy all our food to punish us for having interacted even with these guys. So, like, I think that is like a fairly subtle clue towards, like, oh no, like, this is like a very much like built division.
Right, I suppose that's fair. I didn't pick up on that myself, but the thing that strikes me is about the absence of civilian society, right? Like, because, and sure, we get the implication that this might be like an outright fascist government. It's unclear. Like, it's definitely eugenicist, but, like, how much of it is like it might be democratic for all we know, right? Like, we have no idea.
My read is that this kind of has to be like a military occupation of a foreign country, but, like,
Probably, yeah.
even that doesn't, like, quite get there, because then he would have somewhere that's, like, a bit more metropole to, like, go home to, rather than, like, the sad shack where he's gonna, like, jerk off to Felicia.
Yeah. Or to the many Felicias. Who knows how many Felicias he's racked up over his career.
I think we are given the impression that he's being rationed in his retirement. Also, for a moment, like, why? The retirement makes no, like, plot sense.
The idea of just putting him in his weird AR?
Yeah, no, like, he's a delusional you've turned on the delusion switch. Like, you can't parade this person around and go, look, this is a great guy because he's delusional now. But you could just kill him.
You could do a lot of things. But, like, anyway, the point about, like, civilian society that like, feels missing here is about, like, media, right? It's about, like, public perception of, like, the home front of, like, oh yeah, you guys are great for killing these unarmed brown people, but, like, in this case it's white people. But you get my point, right? Yeah. Like, it's about, like, how does the media justify this? And that feels like a big thing that is missing here in this landscape. And perhaps it would have been a bit too much to tackle at once, but I don't know, like the absence of being like, how do you justify consent for a war like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is one thing too that you have brainwashed soldiers, and properly brainwashed, not just like socially pressured, but like properly.
Yeah, no, to get to the soldier, you have to go through the washing machine.
Sure, yeah. I don't get it.
Because their senses are continually manipulated rather than sort of a big brainwash and then you let them.
Yeah. Anyway, like, okay, I don't know, it feels like something missing there, right? Like, because...
Yeah.
Because it strikes me, why did this guy sign up? Because we get, like, a little video of him signing up, and he's just kind of like, yeah, bro, whatever.
Yeah, I agree to this terms and conditions, which I haven't read, which, like, that is probably the most Charlie Brooker moment.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, we've actually video recorded you agreeing to the terms and conditions, but also there's the implication that it's faked.
Maybe.
Because, like, the screen keeps, like, wiggling.
I don't know, like, to me it was implied that it was more that, like, they wiped the memory of him doing that.
Yeah, no, it's a bit odd. Like...
I don't think it's super important, but like...
No, it's just a little Charlie Brooker is mad at terms and conditions, which, like, to be fair...
Yeah, fair.
He is correct.
Righteous.
Terms and conditions are, like, the biggest, like, nonsense fiction about the internet, almost, I feel.
He's fully justified in this.
But it doesn't really have anything to do in this particular story about dehumanization of a subhuman enemy.
Yeah. But it's one of those things for, like, whatever happened, right? Like, he must have gotten... Everyone here must have gotten into the military somehow.
Yeah, like, I was wondering about that, because, like, if we're in the eugenics line, like, surely they could just go, like, oh man, you gotta get castrated, you know? Like, it's not that hard to, like, make sure people don't have children. Like, a lot of eugenicist government did that. Sweden, Britain, Japan... Pretty much all of them, I reckon. Like, they all went after gay people.
Well, it's one of those things, and that kind of speaks to the whole empathy thing, right? It's easier to castrate than to kill.
Yeah, which, like, if you're looking for the easy way out, which this fascist government seems to be, like, why not be like, oh, we're just gonna capture and release? And,
well, maybe we should talk about humans like they're stray cats. But...
Well, I'm taking the position of a villainous government in this rhetoric. But like the other thing I was like kind of wondering that they also don't go into like is like because like if you like remotely like put that possibility of like castrating people into your mind, you can go like, well, maybe there is like a home front where they do not do the roach thing. They just like sort of like give people to the doctor and you're like, hey, let's make sure this one doesn't spawn any genetic subhumans.
It does pose the very amusing idea that there's a future where this guy goes home and like he still has the implant, but like the government has changed their course, and then he just like walks around in a grocery store and he sees an orc vampire buying tomatoes and like hissing at their daughter, and that's way funnier to me than this episode offered in entertainment, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, like there's some missed things there.
But yeah, I don't know, like, I guess, as a whole, this episode feels uninspiring, right? Like, if you know exactly... Did we give Charlie, or boy Charlton, an out on dumb twists on this one? Because it didn't feel like a twist.
No, I don't... No, this is like fucking textbook twist.
Yeah.
Like... As in, it is taken from a list of twists.
This is like if in episode 4, Luke Skywalker says, I have to defeat my dad. I mean, Darth Vader. You know, like, it's just, it's so, yeah. When the quote-unquote twist comes, we're like, yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I mean, like, the twist almost is that it's the most obvious one.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, like, it's played very straight. Like, there's no winking at the camera, which is like...
No, there really isn't. Like, as you said with the solar panels and stuff like that, you're like, wow, yeah. How strange that these orc vampires are building solar panels.
Like, I was thinking back specifically to Rachel, Jack, and Ashley, too, when there's, like, a few moments when the episode goes, oh, I might do a twist, and then it like pulls back and it's like, don't worry. But this episode is just like, we're doing the thing. This is the very important story I have to tell.
Yeah.
You must be on board, surely.
It feels genuine, doesn't it? This episode.
Yeah, and it's not better for it.
That's really sad.
Well, I guess it could be worse.
Do you have an example in mind, or just?
Just like if, well, I mean, it could go into a lot of very stupid nonsense directions.
I think the counterfactual here is, what if the roaches just did look like that, but they were still normal people? You know?
That would be quite funny.
I think that would actually have been kind of
The
sick.
implant
Right?
just scrambles speech.
Or nothing at all, right? Like, they're just like, yeah, orc vampires, and they're part of our society. I mean, I guess that's a Shadowrun approach. Well, I feel done.
What did we learn?
I think,
Don't let the government alter your perceptions. Now, unfortunately, we do have phones, so that's not gonna happen.
yeah, that's a lost cause. If you are really into having sex with 10 people at once, don't assume everyone is, or you might freak some people out.
I thought there's some very fun reading off that scene. It's like, no, the implant didn't glitch. It's just that he doesn't have this insane fetish.
Okay. Genuinely, look me in the eyes of Jorgen. I don't think that was the implant glitching. I think that was intentional. I think that's what Doug Stamper was like, yeah, this is how we're dialing up the reward sex.
See, yes, but no. See, my reading is that was Doug Stamper dialing up the reward sex, but then him waking up was the implant glitching.
Ah, I see. Okay, fair enough. Well, either way, Doug Stamper. Certified as sex freak. I suppose that is true in House of Cards too, I think.
I don't remember that much of House of Cards, which is probably fine.
It just sounds right, but I might be wrong. Anyway.
Yeah.
Shall we? Next up, we have Hated in the Nation, which, I was going to say a thing, but I think that is just straight up a spoiler, but it is the longest episode of Black Mirror at 89 minutes. Oh no.
Well, I guess we're going beyond the sea again.
No.
Surely it's not that bad.